Not every car earns its rightful place in history, some simply demand it. In the 1970s, Britain produced a rare breed of sports cars, machines built not for the masses, but for the very few who truly understood what performance really meant. These were not just fast cars. They were statements of power, precision, and prestige. Handcrafted in small numbers, driven by the privileged, and remembered by everyone. And as we count down today, the closer we get to number 1, the more dramatic it becomes. Because number 1 was not just a car, it was pure drama. Let's begin with number 10. Number 10, Morgan Plus 8. In 1968, Morgan dropped a Rover V8 engine into their classic chassis, and the result defied every known rule of modern automotive thinking. By the 1970s, the Plus 8 had become the most powerful car Morgan had ever produced. But here's where it gets interesting. Beneath that hand-formed aluminium body and ashwood frame lived a performance machine capable of reaching 60 miles per hour in under 6 seconds. That was genuinely startling for its era. Morgan built these cars entirely by hand in Malvern, England, in numbers so small that waiting lists stretched for years. The wealthy did not just want a Plus 8, they waited for one. It was raw, analog, and unfiltered. No electronic aids. No luxury pretense. Just mechanical honesty wrapped in a pre-war silhouette that looked like nothing else on the road. Would you have waited years for this? Number 9, Triumph TR6. The Triumph TR6, launched in 1969 and produced well into the mid-1970s, the TR6 was the last of the truly traditional Triumph sports cars, and arguably the most complete of its generation. With a straight-six engine producing 150 brake horsepower in its most potent UK specification, it offered a driving experience that was both visceral and refined. Most people miss this detail. Triumph sold more TR6s than any other model in the TR range, yet it remained exclusive enough to carry real prestige. The Karmann-designed bodywork gave it an angular, muscular stance that looked unmistakably purposeful. Inside, the cabin balanced driver focus with surprising elegance. Here's where it gets interesting. Despite its commercial success, it was never a mass-market car. It was purchased by those who knew exactly what they were choosing. Raw enough to excite. Refined enough to impress. The TR6 remains a benchmark of that era. Number 8, TVR 3000M. The TVR 3000M, built in Blackpool by a company that refused to follow any conventional formula, the TVR 3000M arrived in 1972 as something genuinely unexpected. Beneath its fiberglass body sat a Ford Essex V6 engine, not the most exotic power plant, but in TVR's lightweight structure, the performance was serious. And one decision changed everything. TVR kept the car's curb weight astonishingly low, which meant the 3000M handled with a precision that larger, heavier rivals simply could not match. Very few people noticed this at the time, but the 3000M represented the precise moment TVR transitioned from a kit car curiosity into a legitimate premium sports car. The interior was carefully hand-finished, the build entirely bespoke, and no two cars were truly identical. It was exclusive by nature, not just by price. The TVR 3000M proved that British sports cars did not need Italian drama to deliver genuine excitement. Number 7, AC 3000ME. Very few British sports cars of the 1970s attempted a genuine mid-engine layout, and the AC 3000ME was one of them. First shown to the world in 1973, this car carried a Ford Essex V6 positioned centrally behind the driver, a layout borrowed from the world of endurance racing. Here's where it gets interesting. AC designed the 3000ME as a genuine driver's machine, with double wishbone suspension at all four corners and a low center of gravity that made it handle with impressive precision. Production was extremely limited, which gave it an inherent exclusivity. Most people miss this detail. The car's understated styling concealed an engineering ambition that was remarkable for a small British manufacturer. And one decision changed everything. AC chose quality over volume, producing fewer than 100 examples across its entire production run. That rarity alone makes the 3000ME unforgettable to this day. Number 6, Bristol 411. If you wanted a sports car that nobody else would recognize, but everyone should, the Bristol 411 was precisely that car. Produced between 1969 and 1976, the 411 was powered by a Chrysler V8 engine, an arrangement that gave this aeronautically engineered British machine extraordinary straight-line performance. Bristol cars operated with near-total secrecy. There were no showrooms, no advertising campaigns, no press fleet. If you did not already know about Bristol, you were probably not the intended customer. And one decision changed everything. Bristol insisted on selling directly to clients, person to person, often by invitation only. Most people miss this detail. The 411's body was constructed with techniques derived directly from Bristol's aircraft manufacturing heritage. The result was a car of exceptional rigidity, structural refinement, and presence. The Bristol 411 was not simply bought. It was quietly acquired. There is a very significant difference. Number 5. Jensen Interceptor III. By the time the Series 3 arrived in 1971, the Jensen Interceptor had already established itself as one of Britain's most desirable Grand Tourers, and the third iteration made that argument impossible to ignore. Beneath the Vinyl-styled body sat a 7.2-litre Chrysler V8 engine producing up to 330 brake horsepower. That was a number that commanded absolute respect in any era. But here's where it gets interesting. The Interceptor offered something that very few British cars of its time could match: genuine luxury combined with supercar-level performance. The panoramic rear glass was a design masterstroke. The cabin was trimmed in the finest leathers, and every detail spoke of deliberate, uncompromising craftsmanship. Would you have chosen this over a contemporary Ferrari? Many of Britain's most discerning buyers did exactly that. The Jensen Interceptor III remains one of the most complete Grand Touring expressions Britain ever produced. Number 4. Panther J72. In a decade defined by compromise and recession, Panther West Winds did the exact opposite. They built something extravagant beyond reason. The J72, produced from 1972 onwards, was a retro creation, a modern car designed to look like a 1930s racing machine. But here's where it gets interesting. Beneath that polished aluminium bodywork and sweeping cycle wings sat either a Jaguar straight six or a V12 engine. It was not a tribute act. It was a performance vehicle of serious intent. And one decision changed everything. Panther built each car by hand, to individual customer specification, making every J72 a unique artifact. Ownership was an experience in itself. Prices were extraordinary for the era, which suited Panther's clientele perfectly. Very few appreciated the sophistication beneath that theatrical exterior. The Panther J72 was audacity made manifest, and it remains one of the rarest British sports cars ever built. Number 3. Jaguar E-Type Series 3 V12. By 1971, the E-Type had already been called the most beautiful car ever made, and then Jaguar made it faster. The Series 3 introduced a 5.3-litre V12 engine producing 272 brake horsepower, transforming a landmark design into a genuine performance car for the new decade. But here's where it gets interesting. Jaguar widened the bodywork to accommodate the larger engine bay, and the result was a car that looked more commanding than before. The Series 3 was offered only as a roadster and 2+2 coupe, in numbers managed to preserve its desirability. Most people miss this detail. The V12's silken delivery and extraordinary refinement made it as impressive at low speeds as at high ones. That versatility was rare. That V12 soundtrack was unforgettable. The Series 3 E-Type closed one of the greatest automotive chapters in British history, on its own terms. Number 2. Lotus Esprit S1. When Colin Chapman and Giorgetto Giugiaro unveiled the Esprit in 1976, it was not simply a new sports car, it was a declaration. Wedge-shaped, razor-edged, and impossibly low, the Esprit looked like nothing Britain had produced before. But here's where it gets interesting. Beneath that show-stopping exterior was a mid-mounted 2.0-litre engine producing 160 brake horsepower in a car weighing barely 900 kilograms. The performance-to-weight ratio was exceptional. And one decision changed everything. Chapman chose a backbone chassis derived from Lotus racing heritage, giving the Esprit handling precision that embarrassed cars twice its price. Very few cars of this era offered that combination: exotic looks, genuine driver involvement, and real engineering substance behind the styling. The Esprit appeared in a Bond film in 1977, and the world took notice. But enthusiasts already knew. The Lotus Esprit was not following the future, it was defining it. Number 1. Aston Martin V8 Vantage. In 1977, Aston Martin quietly launched the V8 Vantage, and Britain finally had its supercar. This was not evolution. This was intent, delivered at full volume. The V8 engine, modified with revised camshafts and larger carburetors, produced an estimated 380 brake horsepower, making the Vantage the fastest road-going production car Britain had ever built. But here's where it gets interesting: the speed was only part of the story. The drama was immediate and total. The presence was absolute. When a V8 Vantage appeared in your mirrors, you moved aside. Very few cars in any country, at any price point, could match it. And one decision changed everything: Aston Martin refused to detune it, refused to soften it, and refused to apologize for what it was. Pure power, pure presence, pure drama. The definitive British sports car of its generation. This was number 1. The 1970s were difficult years for Britain. Economic pressures, fuel crises, and political turbulence threatened to extinguish these remarkable machines entirely. Yet they endured, because great engineering always does. These 10 cars were not products. They were convictions. Built by craftsmen who cared deeply about what they created. Driven by those who understood what they owned. That era is gone. But its legacy never left. If this countdown moved you, subscribe to Britain Rewind and leave a comment. Which car from this list would you have chosen to own? We read every comment. Until next time, keep the revs high.